good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Altmans, and I'm the president of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. I'm very proud that we're having this forum here today on the State of Black Entrepreneurship. This town hall is a very central part of a big celebration happening this week, the celebration of our entrepreneurs. Known as Global Entrepreneurship Week, this week, 180 nations have signed up to do national campaigns around their country, bringing together the people who are already entrepreneurs and leaders of the entrepreneurial ecosystems and getting them to hold hands, to partner together, and find a way that we can inspire more citizens in our communities to consider the path of entrepreneurship. And in this context, we're keen to emphasize that entrepreneurs are uniquely qualified to help lead us, and pivot us, and innovate us out of this pandemic. Most of the entrepreneurs I know a little about uncertainty, lack of predictability, risk. They also are willing to dream, think big. Of course, entrepreneurs are also well suited to this idea of how do you thrive in a very, very uncertain environment, because they are disrupting traditional industry models. And so as we move forward and we look at this pandemic, we've got a global campaign for a simple reason. And that is because while this pandemic was tailor-made for a global response in the context of healthcare, it didn't get one. And we hope that since national boundaries are as porous to innovation and ideas as they are to the coronavirus, that as we embark upon 2021, and we look to rebuild our economies, regenerate a lot of lost jobs, and bring strength back to our communities, that we can work together, knowing that we can build back better as one community. And so this week during Global Entrepreneurship Week, I can't tell you everything that's going on, but there's more than 40,000 events. We'll be having a variety of activities that involve local, state, and national government leaders, in looking at what are the smart ways that governments can be better equipped to help. There are philanthropies involved, looking at what ways they can be more supportive to those entrepreneurs that need that critical assessment and support at this point to make it through the pandemic. And then finally, we're going to have a whole range of activities around inclusion. You know, we've studied at GEN, which is supported by the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City, for many years, what it makes to take a healthy entrepreneurial ecosystem. And one of the biggest components of this is that it needs to have density, but it needs to have diversity. This is so important to entrepreneurship. This is not just about our nation's conversation about systemic racism. This is about how do we innovate ourselves out of our pandemic. You know, we need to take very specific targeted actions. We need to make sure that we recognize and acknowledge that there have been historically underrepresentation of groups in our ecosystems. And we need to make sure that as we move forward, that we come up with the best ideas, no matter where people come from or what their background is. And so as we embark upon this conversation, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. For those who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or supporting an entrepreneur, if you're not already an entrepreneur, I hope that you remember this, that what we do in entrepreneurship is not just of narrow commercial significance. It represents the possibility of human endeavor for the benefit of all. It is indeed an imperative if we are going to rebuild our economies, if we're going to make for a more sustainable and equitable future in our post-pandemic world. So I want to thank you for joining us during Global Entrepreneurship Week. Thank you for joining Jen and Hello Alice and the NAACP for this really important forum and town hall on the state of Black entrepreneurship. And it is my distinct honor to turn over to the moderator of today's discussion, Derrick Johnson, who, as you all know, runs NAACP. So Derrick, over to you. Thank you so much indeed.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. As the nation's largest and premier civil rights organization, we are proud to partner with Hello Alice. It is a part of our mission to improve the quality of life of African Americans and other disenfranchised community and fight against discrimination. More people know us for fighting against the part of our mission, but not enough is known about our proactive mission. It is in that spirit that we partner with Hello Alice as we seek to build African American entrepreneurship across the country, but more importantly, to link that up with a global reality across the African diaspora. There's so much we can offer. For today's conversation in this State of Black Entrepreneurship Town Hall conversation, I have three wonderful individuals joining me as I try to channel my best Oprah Winfrey possible. We're going to enter into a dialogue, a conversation. So I hope as out of this, you receive a lot of informative information. First up is Tanya McNair-Riri, who is an award-winning entrepreneur, international business expert, and global champion for women's economic empowerment. She is the founder and managing director of IBS Global Consulting, a global management consulting firm that specializes in helping small and medium-sized companies expand internationally. In 2020, this year, Tanya launched the Women Going Global movement to inspire and encourage women entrepreneurs to explore international business opportunities and scale their business beyond their local boundaries. She is the author of the soon-to-be-released book, Women Going Global, real life stories of women entrepreneurs doing business across borders. Welcome, Tanya. Next, we have TV producer turned communications expert. RAKIA Reynolds is the founder and executive director of Sky Blue Media, an award-winning multimedia and creative communications agency with an all-star roster of lifestyle, technology, and nonprofit clients. Over the decade of leading industry leaders, has positioned RAKIA as one of the foremost minds in strategic communications and business innovations as an advisor to top Fortune 100 companies and influential figures. RAKIA and her team serve a robust, diverse client list, including Airbnb, Dell, M. Night Shyamalan, Morgan Stanley, Serena Williams, and many more. In addition to Sky Blue Media, RAKIA is the founder and CEO of Everyday Jane and fan of your brand. Welcome, RAKIA.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And finally, we have our DARNELL BOWEN, who serves as controller and head of human resources at Hello Alice, a free multi-channel platform powered by AI technology that guides business owners by providing access to funding networks and services. Through a network of more than 2,600,000 companies in all 50 states and across the globe, Hello Alice is building the largest community of business owners in the country while tracking data and trends to increase owner success rates. Hello Alice is currently hosting the COVID-19 Small Business Resource Center, since we believe in business for all by providing access to owners. Welcome, DARNELL.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
So I'm going to kick off the conversation with the question for all three of you, if you would chime in. Why is this moment in the midst of a pandemic and the backdrop of George Floyd in the aftermath of the election important for African American entrepreneurs? But Tanya? Still on mute.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Yes, it's an absolute wonderful time for entrepreneurs, especially Black entrepreneurs today. Entrepreneurs in general just face so many different challenges. But as you know, Black entrepreneurs are faced with even more challenges, especially Black and minority and women entrepreneurs as well. So I think it's a good time because a lot of effort is being put forward to highlight some of the challenges that we have been facing, and then what are some of the solutions that we can bring forward going into 2021.
Thank you, RAKIA.
Sure. I think, you know, as you mentioned and alluded to, 2020 has been a mirror for so many people. And so as, people continue to tackle all of the challenges of this country and around the globe, things like systemic racism, things like access, equity, belonging, mattering, all of the things that we're trying to tackle. It's particularly important for entrepreneurs to really pay attention to the sort of cleansing and reset and reimagination that's going on. All of the businesses that we work with, and small businesses to the Fortune 100 companies, people are in Q4 planning right now, thinking about what does 2021 look like. Gone are the days where we're like, hey, new year, new you. What are your intentions for 2021? What are the goals? Because everyone is trying to keep up with these cascading trends that keep coming about. So I think it's important for entrepreneurs to assess what the current trends are, to pay attention of the sustainability of the current trends, and to really understand that we are going to have more of these shifts happen again and again and again. And so if you can withstand and withhold one set of trends and challenges, that can better prepare you and equip you for the trends and the challenges that are to come.
New year, new you. I like that. I'll be using that one. But what I heard more importantly is track the data, allow the data to inform the strategy. Darnell, what do you say?
I say that this is a good opportunity for us, for all entrepreneurs. Yes, as a country, we are entering and have experienced a renewed emphasis on some of the systemic problems that we've had that have always existed. We've been reminded of that, but we're also in a different phase where technology has expanded. In a sense, it has started to level the playing field. And what I mean by that is access to online technologies are a lot easier across all groups. But what remains important is that we as a people know who we are and know what we bring to the table, and take pride and ownership in that, and realize that we are America, we are the world. And so with the changing situations, realize that this is not 1950. We are still dealing with things that have happened and from 1850, but in a sense, there's more engagement from some other groups before that are stepping up and saying, yes, there are some challenges that we all need to address. And I think that gives me a lot of encouragement, because in order for us to really reach our potential, we have to work together. So I'm excited about what's coming above and what's going ahead of us in the next coming years and so forth. This pandemic has really just reset everything. And so there are some challenges, but we have proven, because we have sustained the challenges before, that we can get through it, and let's go up and go forward.
And I'm not trying to age anyone here, because I'm perhaps the oldest person here. I don't think so, but I probably am, right? There was a time where the mode of communication was the phone in the kitchen with the long cord that you stretch all through the house, right? And then all of a sudden they had the brick cell phone. Then you had the cell phone. Then you have the smartphone. What does it mean to be a global company in 2020?
Okay, I think I'll start with that one, because I run a global company. But what that does, it allows you to really access markets that you was not able to access before. So we're a global world now. And so before, you may have been limited to just your local region. Whereas now, through technology, through social media, you can reach out to customers all over the world. You can sell your products and services to companies and individuals across the globe. And so I think that's a fabulous thing. And I think that's something that we as entrepreneurs should all be taking advantage of that.
Anyone else? What does it mean to be a global company in today's marketplace?
It gives you what it means is that you can amplify who you are without necessarily having the physical infrastructure in other countries. And so a team of 3 or 4 people that are selling a product or a service through the internet can actually promote themselves a lot cheaper than they could by buying television ads and so forth, and also sell that service and utilize the delivery services to deliver those products. And so your reach and your ability to actually go above and beyond and to seem bigger than you actually are is a lot more attainable now than in years past. So the opportunities are there. However, that also brings in challenges. You have to know your markets that you're going into. So then what do? You reach out back out on that platform, the internet, and you do as much reading as possible so that you can learn that, yes, you may have access to markets, but your requirement for understanding those markets also is going to increase. So there's no free lunch, but you do have a better opportunity.
Derrick, let me add something if I can. As a global organization, we have to operate in 180 countries, and we have affiliates in 90 with Jen. We even, in fact, the only real estate we own is outside the United States, and that's because that's where the market was for it. But one of the things I would just point out is people are saying, well, how do I capitalize on opportunities for 2021? It is extraordinary, and there's not enough discussion about this. How many, just as Darnell said, like two or three operation people that now have a potential for the entire market, which is maybe where you were going, because of the fact that also investors are looking at companies electronically now. And it used to be that, for example, angel investors would never invest in another geographic market because they didn't understand it. But now, of course, they're able to get considerably more exposure. So I think it means a whole lot of new stuff to be a global company. And the opportunities are tremendous, especially for people who are embedded in the community. The only thing I'd quickly say is, and obviously, by the way, it's one of the reasons that Jen is partnering with Hello Alice. We're very happy with any of the people on this call are interested in, you know, how do I get access to markets overseas? Be sure one of the reasons Jen's there. One of the things I quickly point out on this is it's trust. It's coming up with, and you talked about diaspora networks. It's coming up with communities of people that can help you either because they're partners or they're diaspora networks to really build trust and understand how to do business overseas. I just think it's one of the most under-discussed transformations that will come out of this pandemic. In line of what you said is what's one of the positive things we can focus on.
Uh-oh, I was muted because I got a little background. It's called working from home, teleworking here. So, you know, it's the saying, these are the worst of times and best of times. And we've touched on that a little bit. What would you say are the best of times in this new norm? Now, the norm shifts every day as we're learning, but what would you define as the best of time in these new norms for entrepreneurs? I'm seeing the face ponder, like, what's going on here, right?
I think, a few things. I like that you said new normal. I brought up saying the new abnormal to a team member today, and someone was like, why are we calling it abnormal? And I do want to say that, or stress that these are not, it doesn't feel normal for a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs and people that are still trying to catch up to like the first shutdown, right? Like some businesses are, brick and mortars are trying to recoup where they were during the first shutdown. So I think we are living in this new abnormal. But what happens when you're living in a time where there's tension, you know, there have been a lot of businesses that have started or have begun because of a major challenge or, you know, some sort of upset or disposition in a marketplace. And so we think about innovation and disruptive innovation. So there's disruption and then there's disruptive innovation, and disruptive innovation essentially comes when there's so much tension in a marketplace and something has to come out of that. I think in this new abnormal, you will see that businesses and people and entrepreneurs are paying attention to those trends and saying, okay, hey, there's an area of opportunity as people continue to work from home. Folks will figure out that there are ways that they can cut costs and have more work from home or more remote work. So what will that do? Maybe there will be some, you know, ways that you can present new businesses for office spaces, or like, you know, office spaces in a box, you know, wallpaper and things like that are on the rise because people are spending more time at home. So I can imagine that in this reimagination phase of the new abnormal, businesses are rethinking what their approach will be in 2021 and beyond. Businesses are creating new avenues for their businesses. You know, a lot of small businesses are saying, you know, people will say, have you figured out a way to reprogram or reformat your business to adjust to this new space that we're living in? And yes and no, some businesses aren't set up for it, and nor are they really interested in doing so, but it might cause the tension might cause them to rethink how they can be more collaborative with other businesses, how they can have more shared opportunity with businesses. I don't think everyone is supposed to operate in a space of a silo, like my business does this and my business does this, but maybe there's some sort of way that there can be a Venn diagram where, you know, there's this business that does this, a business here, but then there's some sort of overlap so that you can become more collaborative. And I do think the future brings that, and that means shared revenue models. You know, when co-op spaces started to come about, and, you know, shared office spaces and the shared economy started to come about, we looked at it in office spaces and we looked at it in cars, but maybe there's some potential for small businesses and Black businesses to develop some more of those cooperative or co-op models of the shared economy and invite them into their businesses, so that it's like when you win, we all win sort of model.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's almost, you know, when you look at the brick and mortar cost for some businesses, that cost over time can come down because we've proven you can do more virtual business, but the cost of your technology may go up, right? So, you know, I run a legacy organization, 110 years old, and I normally call it is like a Baptist church, right? And that could be good and bad. It's very spiritual in nature, but could be antiquated in our business model, right? What would you recommend to some of the traditional business models, what they should do to transform to a new technologically driven global economy? What will be some of your recommendations? What do you, Darnell, because you're the Hello Alice company here.
Use this difficult time as an opportunity to, number one, think through your business, understand your business. If you don't know your numbers, know your numbers. Get in there and dive in and know for a fact, what does it cost to, for example, run my business? Number two, use this opportunity to be nimble. Can you, as RAKIA was saying, step aside, rethink your business philosophy? Is there something else that you can do? Is there something else that you can do? I think the opportunity for us, and this goes across all businesses, is how nimble can we be? How can we leverage this technology that is, again, allows us to amplify our message and actually touch into markets that maybe we didn't know before, and really build that confidence in yourself, in your business, in your product, that, hey, I actually got in there and learned what it took to actually let my business survive. I pushed into new markets and I made it. What a sense of confidence that can do for an entrepreneur to know that they could actually thrive, or just, and if thriving could just be surviving in this time. So I think that this challenge that we have with the recession and the pandemic, we can definitely use it to be thoughtful, and then to be nimble, and to really learn what it is that it takes to run our business, because no one else is going to know that better than you. And if it takes a little heat for you to understand what that means, then embrace that heat, because you're going to actually come out better and stronger, and to my point, like way more confident on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to piggyback off that, this is a wonderful time to, just to innovate. And as you said, to rethink your business model. I think this pandemic for a lot of entrepreneurs has opened up doors that we would not have known was there. As entrepreneurs, we tend to find opportunities where there are challenges, and you tend to find solutions to problems. And so I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they've actually identified new opportunities. They have learned how to pivot, how to shift, how to take what they were doing and then innovate that to fit the current environment that we're in today. So I think it's a great time to really reassess and reevaluate and rethink your business model, and going into 2021, how you can make your business more sustainable and recession proof.
You know, I'm looking at the chat and someone put in there, you know your numbers. You cannot move away because the numbers are the numbers. And the technology is no more than a tool. And there is a local fish house here, African American owned. I love it. I said, how is business with the pandemic? You know, the rest of the no seats, dining and seating. He said, it's great. We're up 35%. I said, how is that possible? He said, I use the app, people order. They line up in the cars, and when they pull up, I have the order on the intercom. Here it is. He know his number. It's up 35%. And this is a mom and pop shop, but he's so excited. What would you recommend to those traditional family-owned businesses? Because this is a third-generation restaurant. You know, we have the hole-in-the-wall neighborhood restaurants that we love, right? What would you recommend to those legacy businesses that are in our community?
Yeah, I think a few things there is, and I think we've mentioned some of them, but it is time to really reconfigure your business model. And as you know, as you talk about the restaurant, and that's great because I love to support the local restaurants, and I want to encourage us all to keep supporting them. But it's time to reconfigure business models. And when we were at the outset of the pandemic, some people weren't set up for outdoor dining. They weren't set up for, hey, I had this space, and now it's really caused them to say, okay, I had to prepare for this, and now I have added 35 more seats into what I'm doing, even when indoor dining is, maybe limited or it's changed. But I think it's a little bit of reimagination, reconfiguration of business models, sort of reallocating depending on what your sort of cash flow is or where you're getting your cash flow, sort of reallocating where your cash is coming from, and put more emphasis on the things that are more sustainable for your business. I can say in the world of comms for my media agency, some of the things that we did to pivot at the very beginning is we actually didn't react like in a fast way. We don't like to operate off of a hunch. So we listened and we surveyed people and we asked them what did they want. And a lot of folks in our world said, we don't know what to say. And so as a business, because we're not getting the right information at the right time from the right people, whether it's leaders or government or what have you, we don't know how to operate without the proper terminology, without the proper language. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I think this is an interesting time, again, not only from a collaborative standpoint of shared resources, but so many businesses are told you have to pivot this way, you have to do this. And they're given a lot of ideas, and you become fatigued with those ideas. Because sometimes, especially for smaller businesses, and there are businesses where they're solopreneurs, you're the only person taking care of the business, and people are saying, well, put all of your chips into the social media basket. And it's like, I can't do that. The small business, I can't do the social media, I can't do the marketing, I can't do the thing. And so I think it's important for businesses that have, five people and less in their businesses. This is the time to team up with other businesses for collaboration. And from, the content creators, all of the folks that are out there that have already been doing this in the world of social, team up with those people, collaborate with those people, and maybe you offer some sort of benefit or reciprocal agreement where you can benefit each other's businesses. So I just wanted to say, I think a lot of us, and I see things in the chat, people are asking questions. For those of you out there that are solo and you don't have a large team to implement a lot of the strategies or a lot of the tactics that are given, this is where you team up with other people. You have resources like Hello Alice. You sit in on these webinars and you follow up with people, and maybe you're paying attention to the chat and you see people that have similar questions as you do. Follow up with them, maybe not just the panelists. Follow up with those businesses, and maybe you're organizing your own think tanks and your own focus groups where you have 3 or 4 businesses coming together to provide solutions and solution-based thinking to get prepared for this next wave.
Like that, Jonathan,
if I can just
please
add one idea to that, because a lot of the universities have also had to shift and pivot, they are, I've seen where they have been really promoting virtual internship programs. So for those small businesses that find themselves doing everything and you can't do it all, look into some of the universities that have the virtual internship program where you can hire a virtual intern to help you with some of the social media, the marketing aspects of the business. I even had an email come by today from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation where they have a grant that reimburses 50% of the salary that you pay to the intern. So looking into different opportunities like that as well for small businesses.
Thank you. So, Jonathan, have you seen these collaborative communities that RAKIA is speaking of, where small businesses create virtual communities so they can learn from one another and share best practices? Have you seen any models like that that have been successful? And if not, Tanya, sound like we got a new business idea going on right now. Jonathan?
Yeah, the short answer to the question is absolutely yes. And of course, one of the best models for that sitting right here on this panel, we'll hear from in a sec, but with Hello Alice. I mean, Hello Alice is indeed one big community that allows people to find others that maybe they can work together with. I mean, one of the big messages that you'll see on the Hello Alice platform is forge partnerships and do things together. It's going to be easier. But certainly, I mean, one of the real values of what we've done with entrepreneurship in America is that we've made it about communities. And the organization that, frankly, is behind Global Entrepreneurship Week, what we do this week is the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City. They've done a ton of work on what's really the science of building healthier local entrepreneurial ecosystems. How do we make them more inclusive? But more importantly, how do we make them very valuable in this regard to what you're asking about, which is if you've got startup activities, almost all of them are free, but you can join some of those things and meet peers. And I think that's a big message. And I love the advice that's given by the other panelists already. You know, there's no reason why you have to do this on their own. I've also seen a lot of small businesses to come to something that I know now, Derrick, why you have your job, because you've got a long-term perspective, because you said, your organization's been around for a long time, and you can't just suddenly, you know, change everything overnight because someone says it's a big change. And I think that's one of the most important things to remember. Don't overreact. I think we heard from Kia too. It's like, you know, go step by step and think about what are the things that we could adapt. And if you take your model of the restaurant, absolutely, by the way, I'm hearing the same thing. A lot of restaurateurs I've spoken to said, actually, we don't have people sitting around an hour and a half or 2 hours with their meal. They come in and they're here for 2.5 minutes to collect it. So we're actually selling more meals. So I get what you were saying, but they didn't want to completely like get rid of all the tables and chairs and become a carry out. They wanted to, you know, they wanted to be able to come to what will ultimately be post-pandemic, something where they've got both of those business lines. Maybe they didn't previously offer the app service and now they do. So I think it's a question of being measured about it. And I think when it comes to how you use technology, this is going to sound probably because I've got a few gray hairs, this has been the way we've done it. But, you know, I often say turn to a different generation for which, you know, they can help you understand what's relevant. And I always like to say the combination of somebody who's really excited about the technology and says, well, you should just adopt it all. And then together with someone who's got unique knowledge and a long-term perspective and experience of what really your business is about, bring those two sides together and you're going to come up with a much more likely formula to succeed. So there are these communities forming. They're mostly informal, but there are lots and lots of organizations that are trying to be those conveners to help make that possible. And as I say, I'd have to highlight Hello Alice because they do a tremendous job of this.
What do you say, Darnell? You want to jump in there?
Absolutely. It's about the networks and the communities. And I encourage all the participants to take a look at Hello Alice. We've got a great website that we've used, that we built back in the spring, the COVID-19 Business Resource Center, where entrepreneurs can go and find out information on funding, resources, and to the point that we've been talking about the last few minutes, the community and the networks, the collaboration is key. Going out, asking questions, getting feedback, reading forums. That's how iron sharpens iron in the business world and in general. So again, take a look at what we're offering. COVID-19 Business Resource Center. We also have the Black-owned Business Center that, again, we're putting out those type of information that can help people collaborate, look for funding, and build the networks that are going to be key to success.
I can recall when I first started running a nonprofit, and be sure nonprofits is also a business, and I had the staff to read Good to Great. And as they were reading the Good to Great, they was like, well, why are we reading this? We're doing social justice. And the thing that jumped off the page was the example of Walgreens and how they wanted to make sure the main thing was the main thing. You know, what would you advise entrepreneurs in terms of how to focus on their central business model and not get distracted by the fly-by-nights? What would be your recommendation there?
To thyself be true. And so that is going to be, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about know your numbers. That's the key. People, businesses, communities, we all crave authenticity. So you have to be able to ask yourself that hard question, like, what is it that this restaurant does that really differentiates ourselves from other restaurants? Or what service, what product? And once any person like knows what they do, then when you go to collaborate with other organizations, you can more easily fit into that web and then help them move the overall harbor up. And so it's hard work, but it is so worth the payoff to like ask the hard question, ask your friend, like ask your spouse, like what is it that we do that is different? And take the time to learn that answer, because the answer to that question is going to really, again, provide the confidence and set up the roadmap that is going to help propel you not only during the difficult times, but also it's relevant when things are going to be better. Again, it's about being authentic. We all are different. Your businesses are unique. And so taking the time to understand that and what it takes to deliver that product or the service, knowing what your numbers are, knowing the market that you're operating in, knowing who your customers are and what they need before they may be able to articulate that is only going to set you up for better success.
So you said something there, and I'm gonna go to RAKIA to kind of tell you, knowing who your customers are. How do you determine your customers, and how do you determine the individuals that you're focused on may be marginal customers, and the individuals that you're not focusing on is the real gold mine in terms of your customer base? How do you figure out your audience, your target customer audience?
Yeah.
Here or Taya?
Yeah. I just wanted to jump in and sort of, I guess, sort of follow up to what Darnell was saying. I do think that a lot of businesses have had some time to sit with themselves. Like, you know, when people say, I'm going to sit with myself and sort of figure things out. If you have the time and you have the resources, I would encourage people to revisit what their sort of brand manifestos are and simply write down, like, currently, what is the mission of my business? Currently, what is the vision? Where do we want to go? What do we want to see our business as? And then I would also ask or encourage people to look at what your values are And, you know, the saying is, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And to help to protect and insulate you against, should we be doing this? Should we be going after this? Should we be doing that? I mean, what are the sort of 5 to 6 values that your company does stand for? We found that, you know, as a small business, it's really important for us to understand who we are, what we do, who we serve, and why we serve them. So that when we do get an influx of you know, business requests, or someone tries to take us down another road, it helps to sharpen our focus and keeps us really diligent on what we're supposed to do. And those are simple team exercises. Maybe it's, and again, if you're a business, when you're a solopreneur and you're sort of whiteboarding and workshopping it with yourself, I do think people need the time to really understand what those things are. I think there are different ways that you figure out who your core audience is or your consumer base is. If you're figuring this out on social, maybe you're paying attention to your back-end analytics. So if you're looking on Instagram, for example, and you say, like, who is my audience? When are they looking at, you know, my content, or when we put something out that's new? You're paying attention to those times. You're paying attention to the age demographic. You're paying attention to, you know, is it, you know, an audience that identifies as women or an audience that identifies as men, so that you're able to effectively speak to those audiences. So if you know who your audience is, maybe you're looking on your website at those back-end analytics and you're crawling the data to see who those people are that come to your website or the pages that they drop off at, so you understand sort of the interest there. Or if you're a brick and mortar and you're not operating really in a digital space and you're going through receipts or you're going through things that, what are my peak days? Who are the people that are coming here? What are their personas? What do they look like? How can I serve them better? You have to do those necessary, I mean, it's imperative to do those exercises, because if you understand who you are, what you do, what you're offering, why you're offering it, what those values are, what the mission of your business is, what the vision is, so where you want to go, you're able to communicate more effectively.
And just to add to that, just as important as it is to know who your customers are, it's also important to know the needs of those customers and have an understanding that those needs could also change. So if you did a survey, say about a year ago, maybe it's time to reassess what those needs are, because they do change. Circumstances change, and so customers' needs and the things that they look for also change. So that's important as well. It's also important that if you want to understand the needs of a customer and know who they are and what they want, it's best to ask them directly. I know a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're so passionate about our products and our services, and we just think that everybody want to buy it. And so we just think we know that this is what they want. But no, that's not a good strategy. So if you want to know what your customer wants, ask them directly. And you could do that in discussion groups, surveys. It's just a lot of different ways that you can gather that information. And again, keeping in mind that needs change. So you want to reevaluate that every so often.
Follow the data, follow the data. So I have the privilege of being a moderator, and I'm listening and I'm learning. And I'm sure there's some things you've heard the other panelists say. You know, Darnell, is there a question you want to ask any of the panelists? Is there something you would like to hear amplified that you heard earlier? Same thing for you, RAKIA, same thing for you, Tanya, same thing for you, Jonathan. I'm trying to share the love of being a moderator right now.
We don't want to take your Oprah moment away.
You know, you get a car, you get a car, go ahead.
I have a question for RAKIA. Where did you get that awesome wallpaper behind you? Fantastic.
Oh, I actually ordered it from a small business in South Africa. And so I got it shipped from South Africa and it went all over the world. But yes, I'm a fan of wallpaper.
If I could just, kind of circle back to the beginning, because we are in this unique space in our history as a country and the world, but like, ladies, like, and gentlemen, what are the opportunities going forward? Like, how can we really like squeeze all of the nectar out of this time to try and learn as much as we can, so that we're better businesses, better people, better country, like going forward? What what's unique about this time that we could really take and go and push and make ourselves better?
Who want to jump in there? Go ahead, Jonathan.
Well, I mean, I'll start. I mean, first of all, one of the things that happens when there's dramatic change like this is that, you know, it's like when society said we'd like to slow down the number of people smoking, it took like 30 years, you know? I mean, something like this comes along and all of a sudden, you know, we're now comfortable talking to our doctor through our laptop with, you know, personal information. I mean, people are being shifted with no choice dramatically into learning how to do things. I don't know how many people used Zoom before this call, but let's think of more bigger, serious things. But I think that the other thing I want to come back to is that what's really most significant is, and I know this expression gets used a lot, but we have the opportunity to build back better. And I think that, you know, the notion of the optimism, I know, you know, Hello Alice has got some great data around the fact that people, 96% of those they surveyed said they're planning on hiring next year. You know, lots of people were feeling optimistic about next year. There's, you know, we have a new administration that maybe will set some different priorities. We have a lot of reasons to say we've got a lot to work with in the months coming up. And so I think, you know, Darnell, I think you're absolutely right. We have to take this as being a unique opportunity where we can actually completely reinvent. And I just want to come back to what RAKIA said. We often look at who are our customers, what do we do? But I love the fact that we should say, what are our values? We have to make sure that values is fundamental. I don't think that's been so fundamental in businesses. You know, I encourage people, by the way, I'm not a big fan of big business plans, okay? But there's one thing that I'm going to put in the chat, a link to. It's free, it's online. It's a Canvas business model thing. It's just one sheet of paper, okay? So all of you can do it. And you simply go in and you just fill in again and say, in 2021, here are some basic things that I want to either say again about who I am and what my business does or what I want it to do, or you can potentially reinvent that. So I think what's really different here is that we get to be more holistic about what we want our company or our business or our society to be about. And I think, you know, we get to say a lot of that in the past. Now we've got a whole different thing. You've got the, you know, thanks to so many people, you know, we've got the country alert to the fact that this economy suffers when people are left out. And I think that, you know, that is a huge, powerful moment for us all to say, no one should be left out. Everybody should have that opportunity and we should be capturing it.
Yeah.
Right. I was just going to say that just goes back to that sort of whiteboarding piece. And, you know, I was talking to a few small businesses throughout the week. One is an adult daycare. Another is a brick and mortar hair care store. Another is a restaurant. And what I found is that not all small businesses operate from the same playbook. So whereas you might say you should do this and you should do that, you really have to understand what's going to be best for your business, right? Like if you're a brick and mortar, you may not have the same wants and needs as someone that is, you know, operating from a restaurant, you know, standpoint, because the needs and the differences in businesses are the same. So it is a time, I think 2020 for just people as a whole has been a moment of introspection. And for small businesses, the introspective moments cause us to, or are help to ignite us to look inward to say, what are our current business challenges? How can we mitigate risk around those challenges? I know a lot of folks talk about online, but there's so much risk, especially when you're talking about the global footprint. There's phishing, there's hacking, there are all kinds of things that you have to sort of endure as a small business that is, you know, sort of increasing your landscape, especially in the global economy. So you have to understand sort of what risks you're trying to mitigate. But the only way that you know how to do that is when you've done those very, I would say very, and I don't want to say basic exercises, but sometimes you just have to do the refresh. I mean, my office now, like on all of my walls, I have a digital whiteboard, but I have big sticky notes around every single wall so that I can visualize, here are the clients that we have, here are the clients we need to be working on, here are the teams, here are what our values are, so that we are reminded what our values are. When I talk about values, I talk about them a lot because I do think that they're really, really important. If you're a business that, and I'll just say quickly, our main values are trust, integrity, and authenticity. So we know that if a company comes to us or a product is introduced to us, we can say, does this company, represent the same, or are our values aligned? Also we have one of our values is freedom of thought, expression, and creativity. Is this a business that would welcome freedom of thought, creativity, and expression? Is it a business that you can trust? A lot of corporate companies, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies now are really introducing this idea of trust into their businesses. So how do we look at 2021 from a trust standpoint? How do we look at 2021 from an agility standpoint? So I think you have to take all of these factors in mind and really do those exercises inside of your business so that you're prepared, you understand what your footprint is, and you can sort of better prepare for what your sustainability plan and model looks like.
I'm going to bring you back in, Tanya. What do you say to that?
Ditto to everything that she just said. But my motto is and has always been to think global. I don't know, you could probably see that as my backdrop. So in doing that and thinking global is really about again, taking advantage, leveraging the online networks, leveraging social media, leveraging the fact that you can now reach out to expanded markets that may not have been easily accessible before as a strategy in growing your business, making your business more sustainable, whereas before you may have relied on this small segment of customers. Now you can expand your reach. Now you can service a much broader customer base. It's also a time to really to think about, as she said, your values and what your company stands for, and how you can incorporate that as you move forward and re-innovate yourself and make sure that you're not losing touch of who you are as a company, but making sure that you're making those necessary adjustments to meet the current situation and the current needs of today.
So, in the final 8 minutes that we have, always the big elephant in the conversation is access to capital. Right? We are long on talents and concepts and ideal, but people are always concerned with their ability to access capital to bring those concepts or ideals to life. What would you recommend to current entrepreneurs, individuals who want to get into the entrepreneur space, and small companies that are seeking to grow? How best should they pursue accessing capital?
It's a big challenge. Access to capital is one of the greatest challenges all entrepreneurs face. And we're talking about specifically here Black entrepreneurs and minority entrepreneurs who have it even more difficult. There's definitely disparities when it comes to capital and Black-owned businesses and minority and small businesses. We tend to get the shorter end of the stick when it comes to capital. So that is an ongoing issue. I have seen where there are, programs and things like that are coming up. But again, the small businesses, as what I'm seeing, are not the ones that's getting access to those programs.
Yeah.
So that's a discussion that I think we need to talk about more. Why is that? Why are we not getting those opportunities? Why are we not at the table when you're talking about those things? So it's definitely a challenge. But there is capital, there are programs available, but again, just to be honest, I just really believe small businesses, minority businesses, we just tend to get the shorter end of the stick when those programs are available.
Absolutely. Darnell, what are some of the things Hello Alice is doing? And I see your kid about to jump in there.
No, I was going to say I defer to Darnell because Hello Alice has such a wide variety of offerings for small businesses, and we know some of those businesses that have benefited from some of the grants that they offer. But I wanted Darnell to go, and then I just had one quick thing. So I'm going to give you the floor, Darnell.
Go ahead, Darnell.
Thank you. So again, COVID-19 Business Resource Center, check it out. HelloAlice.com, check it out. We do have programs there. And I'm going to say two things quickly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The access to capital is very, very difficult. We know this. And what I'm also seeing is that with the pandemic, we are seeing enterprise companies step up to the plate and say, we want to help small businesses. Forget the government. We are going to help small businesses. There's grant programs that we are working on right now where we are teaming with partners on the enterprise space to get funding in there. You're not gonna, be able to buy a boat with it, but you might make payroll next week. And so it's spreading as much love around. I'm encouraged by these big companies. I could name them, but they're out there actually putting the money they're taking from their pool and pushing it back in there because small businesses are going to help us. And number two, this is an opportunity for us to get our stuff together. When PPP came through, companies were caught off guard. That money, that first round of money was gone in probably 2 weeks, okay? And people were like, well, where is it? That was it. The point being that you had to have your business documents lined up. You had to know your numbers. You had to have your stuff in order. This is an opportunity, folks, to grow into our demand. And so, yes, it's going to be tough to get capital, but when we have our stuff lined up, when we go to someone and says, this is my package, I'm approving it. Like, that is only going to help us be able to seize the opportunities when they come. So I'm not trying to sugarcoat and say, yeah, go here. But what I'm saying is, if any business has an opportunity to make sure they know that they are in the position to receive the money when it comes, that's only going to help them be able to actually expand and actually monetize that to the best potential.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that something you said. A really good point is not waiting until the money is available to get your package together. Take this time to get it together now so that when it is available, you are ready. A lot of times, I think for a lot of small businesses, they missed the boat because while they were preparing the documents and getting the numbers together, other companies already had taken all of the money. So it's best to be ready so that when it comes again, you're ready to go. Your paperwork, you can be one of the first 100,000, people to get your application in. So that was a good point to be ready. Don't wait until it happens to get yourself together. Take this time to get it together now.
And Monica just said, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That's all I was going to say. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So thank you, Monica, in the chat for saying that, because I heard from so many small businesses saying we couldn't get this round of funding because we didn't have our books in order, our balance sheets. We've been so overwhelmed, or we've been too busy. We haven't been able to get those things together, but it has presented an opportunity for folks to really get their houses in order and get everything aligned and in the right way so that we are operating very, very efficiently.
I've heard the best strategy is when two things come together to create the third. It is preparation, meeting opportunity equals success. And that's always be prepared at any given moment. Jonathan, what do you have to say to access to capital?
Well, first of all, it's just delightful to see that there is now, I think, a universal understanding that there's got to be some barriers that we've got to figure out. Why is it that Black entrepreneurs are not getting their fair share of the available capital? I know that I work closely with a variety of organizations on this topic. I know the Young Marion Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City is super focused on this. And by the way, they only get a chance to try to do one event at South by Southwest in Austin every year, and I know they're going to do it on this topic. So I'll put it in the chat, but if you want to vote for them, that they'll win to get this to be their topic. But I just want to tell you, I think there's a couple of thoughts about it. Number one, people like Rise of the Rest and Steve Case, some of these groups out there that seem to have a lot of visibility, they're right on that message, which is Black entrepreneurs are not getting this capital, and also women entrepreneurs. Why? What are the barriers, and how do we unpack what those barriers are and work on it? So I think a lot of the task is there, which is everybody's motivated to change that. The question is, how do we change that? And one of the things I want to emphasize, and it's something I mentioned before, is part of it is to work out how on earth is it that the people who are getting capital are getting capital. So get involved in your local entrepreneurial community events and activities, and talk to peers and work out how are they getting it. And by the way, some of them are not going to be Black entrepreneurs. They're going to be entrepreneurs from all different backgrounds. Figure out what is it that, why is it that that exists? Because we're desperate to get that information. Of course, another thing we hope is that, you know, the new president, the new administration will follow what the Prime Minister of Canada just did. Prime Minister Trudeau, who's one of the big advocates of Global Entrepreneurship Week, he just announced a few weeks ago, you know, a program specifically about getting capital in the hands of Black Canadians, for example. And they did a lot of great work at working out what were the regulatory barriers that were changes, what were the perception barriers that had to change. But a lot of it is, just as you guys said, preparation. And part of that preparation, though, is working out, well, what is it I'm not prepared? It's not just, do I not have my paperwork in the event that there's a funding opportunity? It's like there are some missing steps that certain communities don't take in ecosystems that they can learn from each other. So I really think this is vitally important. I will say Hello Alice and Jen has a small business grants program. So there is a grants program out there, but this isn't all about grants. This is about how are you able to get the right capital at the right time when you need it. And that's the critical thing. I mean, too many people are going after the wrong capital at the wrong time. And that's part of the way to make sure we attack this access to capital issue, is really helping sure that we've got everybody in the community working on why is it that we've got barriers to certain people in our community, whereas other people are not having that challenge. And that's the real work at hand. And I think the sort of perception in the entrepreneurship world anyway is that this is something we all have to work on together.
So we've run past the hour. It's been such a robust conversation. I want to ask first Tanya, then RAKIA, then Darnell. Any final thoughts, any final words you want to share?
Okay. Yeah, I think also too, with everything that's going on, a lot of people are experiencing a lot of different challenges, not just in their business, but personally as well. Like Michigan, we just been put back on lockdown. Entrepreneurship is a lonely space, and then being on lockdown causes even more loneliness. I just want to encourage all entrepreneurs to stay engaged, to get involved virtually, make those connections online until we can see each other again face to face, just to stay engaged virtually as much as possible. Reach out and talk to other entrepreneurs, start different forums and discussions where you can share the challenges that you face and hopefully come up with some solutions to those challenges. I think that's really important, just to keep the conversation going, to stay engaged during these difficult times. We're all going through it together. I just want them to know that they don't have to go through it alone. Together we can get through this, and we will get through this.
Thank you, Tanya. RAKIA?
Sure, I would echo Tanya's sentiments and the things that she said, and encourage folks to really look at multiple perspectives as you're mind mapping through this next phase of your business, and you're mind mapping your way to 2021 and beyond.
Great. Jonathan, any final words?
Yeah, very quickly, I just want to say, for all the optimism I get from all the wonderful entrepreneurs that have the privilege of working alongside, I'm a sort of glass half full person, but sometimes I think we don't say enough about the number of people who are really suffering during this pandemic, not just the loneliness, but of course so many people have lost their lives. So I want to make sure we take a second to remember that this is a very difficult time for our country. But beyond that, if my one bit of advice to you is find a program when live events start up again called 1 Million Cups. We call it Going to Church for Entrepreneurs. It's really a tremendous program. It's run by the Kauffman Foundation. It's free. Look up one of your community. They'll give you that kind of peer advice, counsel, sense of community. from the entrepreneurship perspective that we really encourage. So I just really want to say, Derrick, thanks for doing this together. We are so honored and empowered to really be part of addressing a lot of these challenges that many of the entrepreneurs on this call I know face.
Thank you. Jonathan, any final word? I'm sorry, Darnell, any final words?
Just during these challenging times, I just want to encourage us all to be thoughtful. Let's pay attention to the detail and to have a balanced approach to working hard. We have to remember to take care of our #1 asset. That's ourselves. Take care of your mind, your body, and soul. That is what's important. Your health is your wealth. And so with that, I just want to say thank you to my wonderful co-panelists. This has been awesome. Thank you, Derrick, for your moderation and to all the participants. This has been amazing.
So I'm going to conclude by saying thank you to all of the panelists. Thank you to everyone who've tuned in. The German philosopher Hegel, he talked about the dialectic, and we are in a dialectical moment where what was old is being confronted by a countercurrent. But what emerged out of this would be something new. It'd be a little of the old, a lot of the new, but definitely something that we should all look towards. And the barriers, racism shouldn't be the stopping of the conversation. It is the reality in which we live. And now we must overcome it in ways in which we can open up opportunities, not only for entrepreneur ventures, but a value proposition that not only do we matter, our dollars matter, our creativities matter, and we can control our creativities and our dollars in ways in which we can grow our communities. On behalf of the NAACP, we thank the partnership with Jen, we thank the partnership with Hello Alice, and we look forward to more of these informative dialogues as we open up the spigot of knowledge, which should hopefully lead to more opportunities for entrepreneurs. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.